Bless the Lord on my soul and all that's within me. Bless his holy name. Listen, this not going to be long. This going to be short. I was sitting here and I was thinking, and I was thinking about I think I made the video if a lot of times I wasn't making videos, I was just posting different things on Facebook. And I was uh, put on tonight about a police officer using young people to sell drugs. Um, and then I don't know if I remember putting a video where I was talking about how these people work together with the funeral homes. I see a lot of information that you can look up through the funeral home. Like usually when they have the death certificates and stuff like that, you can get that from the funeral home. So a lot of these things, they'll say people dead and those people not dead, or saying the person died one way and that person didn't die that way. They are falsified. It start like remember I told y'all it starts from the morgue, where they have the medical people that work for them. They have the lawyers that work for them. Different type of insurance agencies that they work with. These are all scammers. They all work together. And I was thinking about the funeral home. You know how the funeral home they'll make like, say for instance, make like this person died from thus because they didn't already work with the morgue. So they all come together, and what they do, they divide the money up. The life insurance policy, they divide that money up. Okay. I was thinking about my husband because I remember his sister-in-law said that he had got married. And I told her, well, I don't know how he got married because number one, I ain't never got no divorce paper, right? So what I wanted to do, I wanted to bring up this here on October the 15th of 2025. I got a video. That's how I know the date where I confronted my husband, right? So that's proof right there. Would say proof that me and him was living together on October the 15th, 2025. So that's when I asked him about the insurance. He had called the insurance company and told them that me and him was divorced. So what happened? He paid his part of insurance. This this was he got mad because I bought me a car, which I was driving an old vehicle. Didn't have no towing on it. Didn't have nothing on it. Like I could be stranded anywhere. This was stuff he was doing, or the type of things. People just look at him like he all that. Like he this upright person, but he was not, and he's still not. How that he took the towing off the vehicle. Now he remind me, I got an autistic son. Why would he take the towing off the vehicle? The vehicle wasn't that good. It could break down on it broke down on us twice, and my son got frustrated each time it broke down on him. That's why I put towing on it. So if anything happened, I could just call a tow company and they could come pick me up. So I had to wait. We had to wait for him to come pick us up, and my son. By the time my son was so frustrated, y'all. This is stuff he would do to agitate. Try to agitate me and my son, which doesn't bother me, but my son it did. So this how selfish and trifling he really was. So I'm going to go back to the insurance part. How that he had called the insurance company. So he paid his part of insurance, but he didn't pay my part. What he did, he separated it and told the people that me and him was divorced. And when I called the people to ask how did they separate it, like that, I didn't know they separated it like that. Because all I was going to do just pay my part like I always do. The second time paying on it, since I got the car. I got the car in April, so I paid for the insurance up for April to October. So October it would do again that, for 6 months. So what I did, I went on and paid it, right? Once I called to pay it. And I asked him, I said, well, why did you all separate it, the policy like that? They said, well, he told us that you and him was divorced. I said, me and him was divorced. I said, well, when did we get divorced? They said, well, I think it was like, they said he called on October the 8th or the 9th or something. I'm not sure exactly what date he did, but I know what date I called. And they told me that he told them me and him was divorced. And I told the people, when they said that, I said, well, when did we get a divorce? And I guess they was confused as I was. And so after I finished, got off the phone with them, I was babysitting my granddaughter. So I went over to the house and asked him. I got on video. I got a video recorded, and I asked him about the insurance. Did he tell the people we were divorced? So he said I didn't tell the people you divorced. I said, well, Don, I said if you tell them, I said the people not gonna say something. Everything you tell them, something like that, they write it down. Well, he said, oh no, I didn't tell him that. I didn't tell him that. I said, see how he lied. This is the part about it. How he lied. These people is the insurance company. They gonna only tell you what's. They write down stuff when you tell them something. You have to give them a reason why you're doing it. And he's told them we were divorced. So this is the little things. Remember I told y'all about how he was buying vehicles and wouldn't put my name on none of them. Then the insurance problem, because I bought me a car, all of a sudden it's a problem. But see, he was taking care of other women, but he couldn't pay my insurance. But I'm the one supposed to be his wife. So this is stuff, I'm exposing these things because, people sit out here and pretend like they're doing this or doing that in front of other people, but nobody know what's going on behind the scene dealing with his kind of person. Two-faced it, living one thing and, got a private relationship. I'm calling it a private relationship when it wasn't private to me, but to him. And his little friends knew about it. And, some of his family members knew about it. But, they said nothing. So who want to have family members like that? Tell me. So, I was just making this video. I'm not going to make it long. I mainly was making it to tell you all about how that he was lying to the insurance company. This is kind of like something where you could see how he lied. And what he doesn't realize. You could go back to the insurance company, call the insurance company. They got that same information on there because that's what he said. So, this is stuff, that was going on where he would, do all kind of stuff. Him working with his hoe, trying to do all kind of stuff to try to bother me, really, which it didn't bother me. Like I said, I told him I would pay my part of insurance. I didn't expect him to pay it because he acted so ugly in April. The way he was acting like I'm not paying that insurance. I said I wasn't expecting him to pay it. I could pay it myself because I knew he had that nasty little attitude, lying and being deceitful. So, I already had my money to pay it anyway. So I paid my part. And then, he was fussing what I separated because I wasn't going to pay it. I said, I didn't ask you. He told me, you said you was going to get another insurance. I said, yes, I said that. I said, but I haven't had time to do that. But I told you I'll still pay my part. But you separated, which didn't make no difference to me. My part was I didn't like because he lied about it. That's what I was like. Like, why would you lie like that? Over something that's simple. It's just one lie after another, one lie after another one, And the bad part about him, he was sleeping with family members. He was sleeping with my family members. That's what he was doing. Sister, aunt, he just nasty. And the family members, they nasty too, because they ain't got no respect for themselves. To me, you expect stuff like this from, like your best friend, which I don't really have one of those. Because, I always was taught, when you're married, that's the person's supposed to be your best friend, but that wasn't so. I didn't have a best friend. I had a whoring friend. Well, no, I ain't even have a friend. That wasn't even a friend, because a friend ain't gonna look out for you. But this nigga here ain't look out for nobody but himself. He's selfish, very selfish. And I just wanted to share that with y'all because some of the scams, and he's involved. My husband is involved in all that stuff, and the people he connected to, the Masons, he in some kind of Masons mess, all kind of mess. He just get himself tied up. Anything with dealing with corruption or what they call it, organized crime, he involved in all that stuff. And then some woman he with, she involved in that too. I think she from Guatemala or somewhere. She from somewhere. And then other women, that ain't, he just a hoe. He gonna put it wherever he can put it here. He don't care where he lay it. See, he got a lust demon. Lust demons just lay with anybody, anything. That's why he lay with my family members, because they got lust demons too, and he do too. So none of them got respect for each other, because all they think about fulfilling their lust, and you don't never fulfill it, because you're going from one person to another. How you somebody feel like that's okay to sleep with your family member. But that's why I just keep talking about it, because number one is this here. To me, it's disgusting. To me, you don't have no respect for yourself. Hey, how y'all doing tonight? I'm not going to stay on long. You all had a good day today? I had an amazing day. I have an amazing day every day, y'all. Thank y'all for coming through. I appreciate you all coming through, okay? I really appreciate it. And I honestly do want to say thank you for coming in, and listening to my story of what I've been through. And I think if, none of y'all been on here before, I have a son that's 22 that's autistic. And my husband with his girlfriend, side chick, whatever they call themselves, I don't know, y'all. Because I'm not used to all that. I'm used to one, married. I've been married 45 years, and he cheated most of those years. Um, and I have my son. Right now, he's autistic. He's 22 years old, very smart. I mean, extremely smart. Um, he was my center of attention. And when he was ready to go, God had him ready to go. So when God had him ready to go, me and my son left, because they was trying to kill me and my son. And I'm 67 years old. And my son, I had him at 45. So I'm 67. So, he's very smart, extremely smart. He went to regular class. Like a lot of times, a lot of autistic kids don't get to go to regular class. But I said one time I was going to try to get him to get a chance to come on and talk, where you all can get to hear his voice. And, just hear his voice. And guys, what's so bad about it? My son don't want to have nothing to do with his dad at all. We had to, me and my son had to escape because they were trying to kill us. So we had to escape we had to escape with one bag. We literally had to leave. He had a small suitcase. He had his backpack. Um, and I had he had a backpack. See, he's a gamer. And when you have autistic kids that's gamers, you have to make sure they have a computer. He had a regular, desktop computer, gaming computer. So God told me to buy him a laptop, because God told me we was going to get ready to leave. So I bought him a laptop, y'all. And he's do not want to ever see his father again, y'all. He do not never want to see him again. He don't want to have anything to do with him. Matter of fact, he does not allow me to say daddy or father, because he say he's not his daddy and he's not his father. So, that's bad when you have a child, autistic child, and they don't want to have anything to do with him at all, And I want to say, too, we've been away from him since October 2025. He not one day have texted him and said, how you doing? Nothing. He had not heard anything from him, which yeah, but main thing, we safe, and that's the most important thing. And this is why I'm talking. I'm telling my story, because the more I talk, people gonna be aware of what's going on. People be aware of, the Masons and different things like that. Some Masons are fine, but then you got the corrupt part of Masons. That's a part of the elite, where they murder people. They feel like they sacrifice people, they're gonna have a better life and all this dumb stuff. The devil be up in their head. And that's just dumb as it could be. But I do want to say thank y'all for coming through. And I really want my son to get a chance to get on and talk, because it's bad when you have a child that don't want to have nothing. You can't even say daddy around him or father around him, because he's just done. He's done with him. He doesn't want to have anything to do with him. But listen, I'm not going to talk too long, y'all. But thank y'all so much for coming in. And I appreciate every time y'all get a chance to come in. Thank you so much.